Hey guys, today I'll be making my official 2020 House of Representatives predictions for the 2020 House races, and so I make all of my prediction videos every 2 weeks. So yesterday I covered the 2020 Senate races, the day before that my presidential prediction, and then tomorrow I'll be talking about my governor election predictions, and today I will just be talking about the 2020 House of Representatives and which party I think will be able to carry the House after 2020. And so currently on your screen, this is the map of the 2020 House after the 2018 midterms. The Democrats flipped the Senate for the first time in 8 years. The last time they had control of the Senate was in 2010. And so they were able to win 235 seats in 2018. The Republicans were only able to carry 199. And there's one independent, Justin Amash, who is a libertarian, and he won his seat in the 3rd District of Michigan. As looking at this map here, you can see that most of the rural areas are all controlled by Republicans. So most of basically the less densely populated states like North, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, they're all red. There's only one district out of these states. However, looking at the more populated states and areas, just these smaller districts, basically the entire West Coast is controlled by the Democrats. Southern Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, a lot of Democratic areas, and basically all of the Northeast is currently controlled by the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives. And so as you can see, there are much more, the area that the Republicans control at the moment is technically higher, but they are all less densely populated, and the Democrats do have more seats in the House at the moment. And today I just wanted to take a look at, the chances each party has of winning the House. And looking at the JHK forecast here, this is basically their House forecast for the 2020 House races. They currently give the Democrats a 98.2% chance of retaining their majority in the House of Representatives, and the Republicans just a 1.8% chance of flipping the House. And I think this is very accurate. They currently give the Democrats on average 235 seats, and the Republicans 200 seats. So basically, this is an exact mirror of the 2018 House races, except the one independent, Justin Amash, from the 3rd District of Michigan would be replaced by a Republican, and that would basically put the Republican Party at 200 seats and the Democrats at 235. So basically, the JHK forecasted 2020 House results are basically the exact same as the 2018 results. And I think that this is a very accurate prediction. I think that basically every single seat is going to stay the same. I think the same party is going to carry their seats that they held from 2018, but I think that definitely there are going to be some minor flips, around 2 or 3 of them in 2020. And looking at the Cook Political Report, this is their 2020 House ratings, and so currently they give the Democrats 190 solidly Democratic seats, and the Republicans 156 seats. And they give the Democrats 17 likely seats and 14 lean seats, and the Republicans 16 and 14. So just based on their likely and lean seats, the Democrats have already won the majority. They've already crossed 218, which is the amount of seats you need to have a majority in the House of Representatives. They already have 218 without winning any, and I mean any, toss-up seats. So the Republicans win all 28 toss-up seats, which I can promise you right now they're not going to do, and they're not going to win the 2020 House. And looking down here at all the competitive races, basically all the likely lean and toss-up races for 2020, these two districts, the 2nd District and 6th Congressional District of North Carolina, they're just in the likely Democratic column before held by a Republican, and they are in the likely Democratic column because of redistricting. And looking at the 2 lean Democratic seats, the 7th District of Georgia currently held by Rob Woodall, and he is currently going to retire. He's not going to run for re-election. He won his seat very narrowly. He won 50.1% of the vote to Carolyn Bourdieu with 49.9%. Bourdieu lost the 2018 House race in Georgia by just 333 votes in 2018. In 2020, she is running again against Rich McCormick, and she is expected to carry the seat by a slight margin. And then looking at the 23rd District in Texas, currently also an open district. These districts, basically the incumbents are retiring. The incumbent here is Will Hurd. He won his last re-election bid very narrowly, 49.2%, to Gina Ortiz Jones with 48.7%. And Jones is running again in 2020 against 2 potential Republicans, Tony Gonzalez and Raul Reyes Jr. They have not had their primary results come out yet, and it is between one of those two that is going to face off against Jones in the 2020 House race in the 23rd District of Texas. However, this is expected to go to the Democrats. And looking at the Democratic toss-up races and the Republican toss-up races, I think that basically every race on the left is going to hold for the Democrats, and every race on the right is going to hold for the Republicans. I really don't think that there are going to be too many changes in these two columns. And then looking at the 3rd District of Michigan, basically Justin Amash, the only independent in the House of Representatives, representing the 3rd District of Michigan. He won his last race pretty comfortably by a 9% margin against Kathy Albro, a Democrat. And in 2020, Hillary Slotin, a Democrat, is going to run against Peter Meyer, a Republican. And Peter Meyer is expected to win this race. The Libertarian voters typically do vote for Republicans if there is no Libertarian candidate, so Peter Meyer is definitely expected to win his House race in the 3rd District of Michigan. And then after this, I just want to take a look at the history of all of the House races, and looking at the modern House races. Basically, the Democrats carried 235 seats in 2018. This is the best result they've had since 2008 when they won 257 seats. This was basically a Republican wave year when Barack Obama won the presidency, and they were able to win many, many House seats. They also carried it in 2006. This was when George W. Bush was very unpopular among the American people, and so that's why the Democrats were able to flip the House in 2006. Before that, it was held by the Republicans. And if you look back here, the Democrats basically had control of the Senate for decades. Even when Ronald Reagan won the presidency in 1984, right here, he won the presidency. He won every single state except for the state of Minnesota and the District of Columbia. And the Democrats still carry the House of Representatives. Looking all the way back, the Republicans did not have control of the House since, I believe, 1955. And the last time that, the next time they would control the House would be in 1994 after Bill Clinton being elected in 1992. So basically, looking at the history, the Democrats did typically control the House of Representatives. However, after Obama was elected president, he may have had a huge win in the House in 2008 based on modern landslide terms. But after that, the Republicans were able to carry the House in every single election up until 2018 after the election of Donald Trump. So 2016 was basically kind of a Republican wave year, and then in 2018 it was more of a Democratic wave year when they won 235 seats, the Republicans with 199. In 235 seats, that is quite a lot. The last time the Republicans won 235 seats or more was, if you look all the way back, in 1946. They won 246 electoral votes in 1946. So that's just pretty surprising. The Republicans typically do not do too well in House races. However, in previous years, they have been able to hold the House for a couple of years, 8 years in total. But I think that in 2020, it will go to the Democrats once again. I think they will win basically the same amount of seats in 2020. And then looking at the generic congressional vote, this really does explain the 2020 House races very well, I think, in my opinion. Basically, what the congressional vote is you're not voting for a candidate, you're just voting for a Democrat or Republican. When they're doing this polling, they just say, would you vote for a Democrat or a Republican? Any Democrat or any Republican. No candidates mentioned, no people mentioned. So basically, the Democrats currently are in the lead in terms of the generic congressional vote. They have a 6.8% edge over the Republicans, with 48% to the Republicans with 41.2%. This is down from last month when they had 50% and they were up 11 points. However, 6.8% is not bad. If we look at the congressional vote history, this is the 2018 generic congressional vote when the Democrats flipped the Senate. They are at 7.3 on election night, and they outperformed this by 1.1%, winning 8.4% of the votes on election night in 2018. And looking at the 2016 generic congressional vote, the Democrats were actually leading here, but the Republicans were able to win the House once again. The Republicans were losing in the congressional vote polling on election night. However, basically all the polling from 2016, if you look at the Senate or the presidency, as you can see here, it was basically the last couple of days up until the election when the Republicans really had their jump, and they might have been losing before, but a lot of voters decided right on election day, which is why the Republicans won the generic congressional vote in 2016. And then looking at the 2014 generic vote, basically Republicans up 2.4, they won by 5.7%. The Democrats lost both the House and the Senate, so Barack Obama really was not able to get anything done in the last 2 years. And then looking at the 2012 vote, basically the Democrats did win the congressional vote, but they did still lose the United States House. As you can see, that the Republicans had that final push at the very end there, but the Democrats were able to hold on to winning the congressional vote, which really does not mean anything, but they did still lose the House. And looking at 2010, basically Republicans up 9 by polling. They underperformed, winning 6.8. They basically filled the House for the first time in a couple of years, and so this is basically because it was basically a referendum on Barack Obama. Basically, the midterms are a referendum on the president. If the president is doing well, they typically do win the congressional vote, and they typically do control both the Senate and the House. But 2010, Barack Obama was not too popular, and that is why his party was down in the congressional vote in 2010. But if you look all the way back at 2008, this is the last House election I'm going to look at, the Democrats were up 9%, and they outperformed, winning 10.7% of the generic congressional vote in the 2008 election. This is just mainly because in 2008, many Americans were unhappy with George W. Bush. He had an approval rating of less than 30% towards the end of his presidency, so he was very unpopular among the people in 2008, which is why he did not, John McCain lost, and basically the Republicans lost the House, the Senate, and the presidency in 2008. And so basically that is it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to my channel as well as liking this video, and make sure you come back tomorrow to watch my prediction for the 2020 governor elections, and I will see you tomorrow.